So, welcome Andrew. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you, Kidaan.
No problem. So, do you want to tell me a little about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Yeah, so I've been a builder for 25 years of high-end residential and commercial work.
Yeah.
Supervisor and carpenter by trade.
Right.
And basically I'm a building inspector now. I've been doing this for 8 years.
Yeah, right.
And with building inspections, what we do is we go in and we basically forensically analyse a property. So,
right.
Non-invasive, so we're not meant to cut holes in walls or kick tiles off the roof and that sort of thing.
Probably not the best idea.
But yeah, so basically, use our eyes and our ears and our equipment to find out the highs and lows of a building that you might be keen to buy.
Yep, truly an expert.
Yes, yeah, it's been a lot of years, and we a good building inspector will look at 2 to 3 homes a day. So, you might be out looking for your property, and it's the first property you've seen all year. We may have seen 600 that year. So, yeah, we certainly know where to look.
You do.
Yeah.
So, I found my dream home. Well, I think I found it, and I'm at the open inspection. What am I supposed to be looking for? What are the factors I have to, think about when I go in? What do I have to do?
Things to get in place. Well, look, obviously it's really important to know what you're looking for and get that down in black and white, I think. So if you write down a bit of a list of your must-haves and your like-to-haves, so
right.
Your must-haves might be whether it's 3 or 4 bedroom, 2 bedroom, whether you'd like a rumpus room or be in an area with certain schools in it.
Yeah, okay.
They're your must-haves, your non-negotiables. But then you might have some negotiables like light pastel colours,
right.
Little bits and pieces, bungalow, whatever it might be.
Things
where you might have a little bit of wiggle room. So if you can really clearly define what you're after, that'll help you to find what you want.
Yeah, because I just really have like a particular idea of what I want sometimes, and then other times I get easily swayed when I walk into a house and I go, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I want, and then I get really distracted.
That whole street appeal thing can really throw you. So you fall in love with the property, then all of a sudden you come out and you've already bought it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only got 2 bedrooms.
Yep, that would be me. That would just jump in.
Yeah.
So when I'm there, and I'm kind of looking at like what structurally should I be looking at and keeping an eye out for?
Well, look, once you get through that nitty-gritty and you've found, you've ticked the boxes that you like, then you need to really take the rose-coloured goggles off and have an in-depth look at the property. Is it well maintained?
Right.
Are there weeds growing out of the gutters? Silicon and grout in the bathrooms? Is the rainwater and stormwater contained around the property?
Right, yeah.
A well-maintained house is an indication that it's been well-maintained over the years and it's going to last you a long time.
Yeah, very good.
Properties that aren't well-maintained certainly do fall apart a lot quicker than others.
Yeah, I would imagine they would. What about if I'm looking at a house and I think I really like I really like the character of it, but there are a few little details about the house that I go, I'd love to just change that. Yeah. So if I was looking at wanting to do a bit of reno or a bit of a fix-up-or of certain parts, was there anything that you suggested looking for in terms of structural integrity there?
Well,
should I be looking for something specific?
It's really difficult, for a layman to go in and have a look and go, can I remove that wall? Can I remove that wall?
Very true.
Certainly if you do have someone there, a family member,
sure.
Or an inspector or whatever it might be, they can have a bit of a look up in the roof for you and say, okay, that's a load-bearing wall.
Yeah,
it's certainly doable.
Yeah.
And then we certainly refer it on to a structural engineer.
Yeah.
But I've never met a wall that I haven't been able to remove, to be honest with you. So certainly most things are doable. Internal walls are a lot easier than external walls. But there's a few little things to think about. But certainly most things are doable.
Right. Speaking of bringing someone with you, my Uncle Dave thinks he's a bit of an expert. He's always, kind of kicking tires when I'm buying a car. But when I'm looking at houses, he particularly taps on the walls. Why does he do that? Is there a real reason?
Well, Uncle Dave could be onto something there. Look, we do have a tool that's called a donger or a knocker, and we go around knocking on timbers, and we tend to bang on walls as gently as possible because we can come unstuck with knocking off clocks or whatever it might be. But it can show up termite activity inside walls. So if a timber is hollow sounding or if it's dull or drummy, or there's some imperfections in the paint, it can be an indication of termites having been in the property or being in the property at the time. So we get high moisture when termites are there. When they move on, we've got damaged areas. The high moisture is gone. We have other things to look for, which tapping and donging and banging and so on and so forth. That can be how we find them. So a good set of eyes and a good set of ears. Uncle Dave might be onto it there.
I'm going to criticise him so much. Have you ever knocked on a wall and something's fallen down?
Oh, well, that's why I brought up the clock thing. Just last week.
Really?
thought I was doing the right thing, and I thought I'd looked on the other side of the wall, but I went over there and knocked on the wall, and all of a sudden, crash, bang, down came the clock.
Wow.
Glass everywhere. So you do have to be very careful with what you do. And obviously we're insured, and it can be a very expensive exercise.
What about other types of properties like apartments or townhouses?
Yeah.
How do you approach those kinds of places? Because they're slightly different than just a normal residential house.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. Yeah, they can certainly have their challenges.
Yeah.
If you're talking about apartments, a lot of apartments in the recent 5 to 10 years have had flammable claddings and had real issues with that.
What's flammable?
Flammable cladding. So some of these likely imported claddings that haven't stood the test for the fire tests and so on. So they've had issues in England and so on where a fire started down on the ground floor and it's worked its way all the way up to the top floor. So we're actually going through now and doing audits on properties and making sure they're not clad in these products and replacing the product where required. So
where in the house is the cladding? What part?
Basically stuck onto the outside or fixed onto the outside.
Oh,
of the building. So the facade, the external walls.
Okay.
Usually the external walls, but it could be an internal feature wall as well. So,
okay.
Really important. Other things with multi-stories are access requirements. Is elderly people looking for the property, handicapped people, you've got to keep all that in consideration and make sure it's right for you. So
that makes a lot of sense.
They're the sorts of things, safety concerns, fire exits, all those sorts of things.
Yeah. Do you have any tips and tricks for making sure that what you see is what you actually get? Because you could do a lot of doing up and they clean, they bring in people, there could be some issues and they've just put some paint on it.
What you see is what you get. One of the tricky things is extensions and renovations, where they've had the correct processes in place and the correct approvals.
Yeah.
So having a good conveyancer by your side is a good one there.
Okay.
And the old knowledge is power. Ask questions. I've always found if you ask a question, you're going to get an answer.
Yeah.
So more questions, the more answers. Ask your agent to speak to the vendor and find out, has there been a pest treatment? Has that been approved?
Yeah,
and also the conveyancer will go through that as well. Are there any easements on the property? All the really important questions.
What are easements?
An easement, okay, so if a house was on a slope and it wasn't sloping towards the road, then obviously the storm water and the sewer water can't go uphill, so it's going to go downhill. And quite often they'll have an easement through the backyard where all the pipes are. And all your pipes go from your house down to that easement and takes it away down to the common SA water areas and so on and so forth. So,
right.
Yeah.
I like asking questions. I always feel so. I never want to do it because I feel like and often people talk to you a lot and they really talk up a place, and my tendency is to just want to go, oh yeah, that's great, and I always kind of restrict myself from asking more questions, but I guess you really just
the heart flutters and you fall in love with the place, and you don't want to hear any bad answers, unfortunately.
This is the thing.
But that's what you need to be seeking, really, is the tough questions and the tough answers. Okay.
So the big question is, do I need a building inspector? Is that definitely a good investment that I should be making when looking at my house?
Well, look, a lot of people look at brand new homes and they think, I don't need a building inspection. And we find so many problems with new homes.
Right.
Sometimes if there's not a client involved and the builder just gets to go ahead and go ahead with the build, all of a sudden, paint's on, let's find a buyer. We've got no idea what's going on up in the roof. A lot of places aren't insulated, and that's not necessarily the builder's fault. The builder doesn't jump up in the roof. That's up to the tradesman. So that's our job to go up there and have a look and go, okay, we've forgotten this process. We get the builder to tidy a few things up. You end up with the house of your dreams. So it is important with any property.
At what stage should I bring in a building inspector? When should I call?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question. So obviously you don't have much time. Once you sign up on a contract, you might have 2 days, South Australia, 2 days cooling off. Other states, it varies. So
that's really stressful.
Yeah, it is. So you really got to get moving. You've got so much going on at this time.
Yeah.
So if you can give a building inspector a call at the soonest moment, if you find a nice house, you're pretty confident you're going to put an offer in, nothing wrong with giving them a call. Let them know that you might be contacting them in the next day or two to organise an inspection. And that way, as soon as your verbal offer gets accepted or an offer gets accepted, you give them a call, you let them know the address, the agent's details, and pretty much we take it out of your hands, then we can give the agent a call, get the job booked in, and get the inspection done for you. During cooling off is the best time to do that, obviously, because that's...
So you can, in case something goes...
it gives you the opportunity to walk away if need be, which obviously no one wants to do. So,
yeah, of course.
But it can happen. So, and also it's great to have you along at the end of the inspection.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of inspectors will allow you to come along. give you a brief rundown on what we find, because it's really hard if you're reading a report.
Yeah, and you don't understand what it's saying.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we can show you through all the defects and give you a really good understanding of what you're about to buy.
That's great.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Absolutely.
So a lot of my friends have been buying land and building on it. So I've had two friends who've recently just moved into their new houses that have been built in packages. What advice do you have on buying land and building? What are some things you should really consider if that's the route you're looking at?
Absolutely. Look, and so many people are with the government incentives at the moment.
Yeah.
So many people are buying off plan or buying land, and it's really actually hard to find land at the moment because there's been that many sales. They're really waiting for a lot more to come on the market.
Oh, I didn't know.
So it's a great way to go, but probably the best way to go is if you can do some research first. Go and get your plans, get your design done, and that way you can go to a builder, and that way the power's in your court. So you can go to the builder and say, okay, this is the build that I want. Even better if you've had a soil test done, because quite often people come unstuck. No soil test, all of a sudden they get a $30,000 bill for footings, and that can just throw your budget to smithereens. So
yes, my friend, the one who recently moved in, she'd almost signed everything, and then there was this whole issue about not having enough dirt, and I thought it was the most randomest thing, but she's like, it's a huge issue now. There's not enough dirt for the foundation or something like that, and then she had to pay extra, or then it worked out or something like that. But it was just a consideration that I'd never thought about when building. Yep. She hadn't even thought about it until it became an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So if you own your plans and you've got your footing profile, then you can compare apples with apples and get your builders to quote exactly what it is. So that's the best way to go about it.
Are there any questions that you would perhaps ask the builder? You know, things that you should take to them?
Yeah. Do they use local products? If they import products, where they imported from, what's to say they comply with our Australian standards?
Yeah, right.
So a lot of water features, be they basins, toilets, and so on and so forth, need to comply with our Australian standards. So that's really important to know. And also testimonials. If you can ask your builder for some testimonials of happy customers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
If they say, oh no, we're not going to give you any of that, that'd be a bit of a warning sign for me. So testimonials, and then follow up those testimonials. Say g'day, and are you happy with the builder? If they're happy to give out the details. So I think that's a really good way to go about it. Yeah. And also using friends and family. You might have some people that have been through the process before.
I have indeed.
So use them along the way. Also, as I said, the conveyancers and other professional people that can help you. They've been there and done it all before.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrew. Just before we finish, we're doing this at the end of every episode. One last question. What is your must-have household item?
Oh, what I'd like to have in my house would be a low-maintenance backyard and a big shed to play with all my toys in, so cars and tools and that sort of thing. Yeah, right. My rental has a very small shed. It's just a cement slab, so you can really see where the priorities are between us. That's not me. Not where I'm at.
Absolutely. So thanks for listening, everyone. For more info about this podcast and for more home buying resources, head to peopleschoice.com.au/first home buyer.